Plank roads, which originated in Russia, were used during the Civil War. Plank roads are planks of wood laid across muddy lanes for travel. Eventually, the roads were paved. All of these roads appear like any other. There is nothing special about any of them, but one. Perhaps it is not the road itself that is unique, but the events that occurred on this road. On this road, a seamstress from Tuskegee, Alabama, started a revolution. Rosa Parks was born on February 4, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama, when segregation laws were in full swing. However, as a child of God, Parks believed that people should stand up for their beliefs, just as the people of Israel stood up to the Pharaoh. She was raised by the Alabama segregationist state motto, "We dare defend our rights." Her beliefs were ingrained in her mind even further when she attended Montgomery Industrial School for Girls, run by Alice L. White and Margaret Beard, two white ladies. At this school, race was not an issue. Rosa married Raymond Parks in 1932. Parks, as everybody called him, was a member of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The NAACP had about 200 branches across the U.S., most of them located in the South. Rosa was inspired to join the association when she saw a picture of one of her friends from the Montgomery Industrial School for Girls as the branch's acting secretary. Rosa joined the NAACP in 1943 and was elected as that year's secretary by default, seeing as secretary was generally a woman's position and she was the only woman in her branch. Her old friend was no longer with the association. Rosa was secretary for 12 years before becoming the youth advisor. She did all of this while continuing her job as a seamstress. The Jim Crow trolley began in the 1920s. Seats in the front reserved for Caucasian people, and seats in the back for African Americans. In 1955, a 15-year-old African American honors student named Claudette Colvin was arrested and convicted for not yielding her seat to a Caucasian person. This case inspired Rosa Parks, and she took a class that summer at Highlander Folk School near Monteagle, Tennessee, about an hour and a half from Nashville. The class she took was only 10 days long, but it was one of the biggest contributors to her inspiration to fight back.
Well, I was arrested on December 1st, 1955 for refusing to stand up on the orders of the bus driver after the white seats had been occupied in the front. And of course I was not in the front of the bus as many people have written and spoken that I got on the bus and took a front seat, but I did not. I took a seat that was just back of where the white people were sitting. And in fact, the last seat, and the man was next to the window, and I took an aisle seat, and there were two women across. And we went on undisturbed until about the second or third stop when some white people boarded the bus and left one man standing. And when the driver noticed him standing, he told us to stand up and let him have those seats. He referred to them as front seats. And when the other three people, after some hesitancy, stood up. He wanted to know if I was going to stand. I told him I was not, and he told me he would have me arrested. And I told him he may do that.
When a policeman asked Rosa why she wouldn't stand, she said, "I didn't think I should have to. Why do y'all push us around?" The policeman replied, "I don't know, but the law is the law, and you are under arrest." A protest began, led by Rosa Parks. It was called the Montgomery Bus Boycott. On the day of her trial, every African American was asked not to ride the bus. This would be a huge disadvantage to the bus system, seeing as 3/4 of the passengers were African American. When the day of the trial came, the driver of the first bus drove up to the court square to be met by a cardboard sign tacked to the bus shed, asking people not to ride the buses for freedom. All day, the buses drove around completely empty. It had worked. The bus boycott was in effect. African Americans walked, got cabs, or hitchhiked to work. One person said he even saw a man riding a mule. Rosa's trial lasted about 5 minutes. She was fined $10 plus $4 for court costs. Her supporters were the most shocking aspect of the trial. Over 500 African American supporters were present to witness her trial. This was the first sign as to what magnitude of an influence Rosa's arrest had been. That evening, at the Holt Baptist Church, people gathered in response to what had happened. The church could hold 1,000 members, and every seat was filled 2 hours before the event was scheduled to begin. This was where the Montgomery Improvement Association, or the MIA, was established. This association was led by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. During her work with the NAACP, Rosa had several encounters with Dr. King. The next day, in a special column, editor Joe Zasbell said, "A flame has been lit. This flame will spread across America." That same evening, somebody asked, should the boycott end, only to be met with the cries of, "No, this is only the beginning." The Montgomery bus boycott lasted 381 days, and over 30,000 African Americans participated. On November 13, 1956, the bus segregation was declared unconstitutional by the 14th Amendment. It was over. They had won. The bus integration inspired other nonviolent protests of second-class citizenship. People would go into white-only restaurants and wait to be served silently, or attempt to purchase items at white-only stores. Men and women protested. Children protested, and were sent to jail. All of these events led up to the most popular and memorable event in all of the civil rights movement.
Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, thank God Almighty, free